Hi guys, it's Sophie. So today I'm going to do a bit of a wrap-up video, and it's kind of a bit early because it's not quite the end of the year, but I'm pretty sure I've got to all of the things I'm going to read for this in the year, so I figured why not? 'Tis Vlogmas, 'tis the season of hundreds of thousands of videos. So I'm going to do the wrap-up of my Read Harder challenge for 2016. So for those of you who don't know what Read Harder is, because it gets a little buzz at the beginning of the year, not so much at the end, it's a series set of 24 challenges which are sort of designed to push readers out of their comfort zones. It's all put together by Book Riot, and they do videos throughout the year talking about suggestions for books in different categories, and it's something that I had a little bit of a go at last year, but only just had a look at the list and thought, oh, that's interesting, and picked a few, and in 2016 I had a go at the full list. Now, I'm not going to finish it, and I know I'm not. I've got 3 challenges I don't think I'm going to get to. One, I have a book that would fulfill it, and I may get to it by the end of the year, and I'll tell you about that one at the end, but I don't expect to. There are other books that I want to try and get to before the end of the year more. I will read it, but just maybe not before we hit the 1st of January 2017. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you what each of the categories were and the book that I used to fulfill them, and we're going to chat through the ones I didn't make and kind of the reasons why I think I didn't make them. Now, these are not in any particular order too. Challenge 1, read a book with a main character who has a mental illness, and I used White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi to fulfill this one. Read a play. I read the Vagina Monologues, which I think is probably one of only 2 plays maybe I've read this whole year, so that's definitely something I should try and do more, but yeah, it was fun. Read a book about politics in your country or another. For this one I chose One Child, which is a discussion about the one-child policy in China, and it led to a spate of non-fiction reading about politics that was great fun. So yeah, that was a really interesting challenge for me. Read a book about religion, fiction or non-fiction. I chose Islam and the Future of Tolerance, which is a sort of dialogue piece, and again it definitely exploded my interest in the Middle East this last year, and I've read an awful lot from the Middle East purely because of that, really. The next one is read a non-fiction book about feminism or dealing with feminist themes, and I actually read a number of books this year that would have fulfilled that one, but the first one I read was Everyday Feminism. And the next challenge is read a non-superhero comic that debuted in the last 3 years, and for this one I chose Everything Is Teeth, though I think I probably would have read another couple that would have fitted, but this was the first one I read. The next was read a book of historical fiction set before 1900, and for this one I chose The Butcher's Hook, just because it's on sort of the edge. I've also read The Buried Giant by Kazumi Suguru, so either one of those 2 would fit that category. Read a book set in the Middle East, again, just dove into it this year, but I read The Woman at Point Zero. Next one was read a book under 100 pages. I chose a book of poetry, that one was Bipolar Cowboy. Read a book over 500 pages. The first one I read was The Familiar Part 1 by Markson Danielewski. Listened to an audiobook that won an Audie Award. I listened to Chasing the Devil, which is a true crime audiobook that was quite fun. Read a book published in the decade that you were born. I read The Dumb House by John Burnside, that I can't quite believe was the same decade I was born, but yeah, it kind of slightly blew my mind, that one, but really good book. Read a dystopian or post-apocalyptic novel. I think I read a couple that would have classed, but the first one I read was Wittgenstein's Mistress by David Markson. That is fun in all of other kinds of ways, but I didn't enjoy it much as a reading experience, but a very useful book. I keep thinking about it, even though it's nearly been a full year on. Next one was read a biography, not a memoir or an autobiography. And for this one I read Most Dangerous, that was a really interesting, almost like YA non-fiction book that again really helped me get into non-fiction this year. Read a middle grade novel. Now I really don't read an awful lot of middle grade novels, so I read the Harry Potter series again this year, so I'm going to go with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Read a collection of essays. I read Shame and Wonder, which was one of the first essay collections of non-feminist writing that I'd ever read, and I've read a fair few since, so that's been great as well. Read a non-fiction book about science, and again I've read a fair few non-fiction books this year, but the first one I read was The Glass Cage. Read a horror book. Again, I've read a few Stephen Kings this year, but Cujo by Stephen King was the first one. Read a book that was adapted into a movie and then discuss which one was better. I read and watched No Country for Old Men, written by Cormac McCarthy and directed by the Coen brothers, if I remember rightly, and I chatted about it in great detail with my brother. I prefer the book, but the movie's great. Read a book out loud to someone. Now, I haven't read an entire book cover to cover to anyone, but I have read large quantities of books, mostly to my brother and to other people within my life. And I've also done some writing and some poems and stuff for YouTube that you guys may have seen previously, so I've kind of used that because it's my own writing and also other people's writing, so I thought that was kind of fun. And then the last one I fulfilled was read a book about a person who identifies as transgender. This is the last one I've just read, and that was The Sunlight Pilgrims. So the 3 I didn't get to were read a book that is written by an author from Southeast Asia. That's the one that I really wanted to get to and kind of can't believe I haven't managed. But I have In the Country, which is a book of short stories that should fulfill it. And the only reason I don't think I'm going to get to it is because I kind of set myself, though I didn't mind if I had 3 short story collections and 3 non-fictions, but I wanted to cut down my fiction by the end of the year, which I still want. And just because this is a short story collection, I actually think probably it's not going to be my priority before the end of the year, though I'm really looking forward to reading it soon. The next one I didn't get to was read the first book in a series by women of colour. And again, the reason why I don't think I got to this one was because of the fact that I don't really read series, and I found that challenge really difficult. I think what I might try and do is adapt it somewhat next year, we'll see how I go, but to read the first book published by a woman of colour, the first thing in her work, because I don't think I actually read any series this year, bar maybe loosely like Saramago's, which is kind of a duology / vaguely linked books anyway. And that's really what put me off, and it was irritating because this is one I thought would have been easy to fulfill, but it's my aversion to series, I think. And the very last one was read a food memoir. And do you know what, I really looked and I tried really hard and I thought I'm going to read a food memoir, I'm going to do it because this should be so easy and it should be simple and I can make some recipes and I don't even have to make them, I can just read it. And I couldn't force myself to do it. I hate food writing. I absolutely hate food writing. I find it dull, I don't like cooking, I'm rubbish at cooking, and I just couldn't make myself do it. And hands up, I should have had a good go because I've enjoyed an awful lot more of what I've read, but I couldn't manage it. So, kick my camera. I managed to read 21 of 24 of the books that were challenged to me by Book Riot. I think it's really good. I've had so much fun doing it this year and I have read so many things I would never have read thanks to this challenge. I would encourage all of you who have thought about doing it and maybe in Denard to try it because it's massively expanded the way I read. I'm fully intending on looking at the challenges for 2017 and trying to work those into my reading goals for next year. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, hopefully you have sort of enjoyed reading widely this year. If you have participated in the Read Harder challenge in 2016, do let me know how many challenges were filled. If you didn't meet some, sort of why do you think that maybe was, I think that's interesting too. Yeah, and hopefully we can chat about it in the comments. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.